right, here we go. Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
All right, guys. Showtime.
Hey, guys. Showtime.
All right, showtime.
All right, showtime.
Hey, showtime.
Showtime, kid.
Let's bring it in. It's showtime, right?
It's showtime. Let's kick some ass.
Ed Berliner, the fastest show in sports.
Greetings, minions. Welcome back into the fastest show in sports. I am your ringmaster, Ed Berliner. Thanks for joining us. The gentleman next to me is Mike Wise. Next to him is Kevin Winter. And of course, if you're listening to this on an audio podcast, you really don't care because as far as you're concerned, you can't see anything. That's only for those of you watching us on YouTube. Also, don't forget that if you are listening to us, you can catch us on the YouTube channel, which is at the fastest show in sports. Let's get to it right from the top. Our gentlemen, part of our Teutonic trio here today, can both start out the show by telling us the tremendous amount of money that they won at the Masters. I mean, these are guys, the degenerate gamblers of the crew who went out there, stuck their money down there and said, I'm going to win. I'm going to make $1 million. Their wives, their girlfriends, everybody in their family is happy. Isn't that right, Kevin, you degenerate gambler, you?
No.
Okay.
All right, you want to know how much they won? No, the same amount that you bet.
I bet nothing.
And I won nothing. But I gave it a shot. I was in the game. You were still on the bench.
I wasn't on the bench.
Yes,
I just
you were.
decided not to. No, I decided not to play. I don't bet on golf. How did you do, Mike?
I took a flyer on Kevin's bet for Ludwig Aberg. I don't know. And yeah, I should know his name if I'm going to put $20 on him to ask.
Oh, you fool! You followed Kevin Winter into the abyss.
But I will say he dabbled with second for a while, and and nobody had come back from 6 shots down in the Masters since '96 or something.
Yep.
And so it was but the fact that he was in it, and the only part I was going to give Kevin grief for was, Kev, why didn't it's like picking a horse to win and he just loses by a nose. Why didn't I bet him another $20 to finish in the top 3? Yeah, top 5. Well, here's the great here's the great moment. Ludwig Aberg cost himself in one hole. He cost himself almost $700,000. I mean, the third place finisher got 1.4 million. He ends up double bogeying 18, or did he triple bogey? I can't remember. But either way, he cost himself. Think about this. You've been playing for 72 holes. Your 72nd hole, you cost yourself half of what you earned, which is just insane.
It really is. And isn't that the funny thing about golf? Where, look, these guys, most of them don't need the money now, right? They've already made enough.
Oh, you mean they're like college football players? Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
So if they're like college football players, perfect. But you're right, they really don't. When you get to that certain level of the PGA Tour, you really don't need the money. I mean,
no, because you're probably flying a PJ anyway. You got your own. The interesting part about it is we view it as you got to make the putt. I know they want the $700,000, but in the end, for them, it doesn't mean anything. But Mike's right. We view it as, oh my God, you just cost yourself $700,000. Yep. That's how we look at it. We look at it.
But wait a minute. What did he make for where he finished? How much money did he make for that?
That's a fair point.
We know.
Wait. How much money did he make for the tournament?
Well, yeah. No. How much? I mean, he missed on $700,000, but how much total did he make?
Well, that's what he made. He made $700,000.
Okay.
So he basically halved his home. I mean, it's still a great weekend.
Yeah. Oh, he missed a $700,000. Oh, poor baby.
See, that's how we look at it.
But imagine that. But imagine that. You double your income if you just don't double bogey the last hole. Imagine that. That's the part that I would. If I was his wife, I would go home and say, honey, I know that we're well off, and but we still have to ask the price of a yacht.
But I needed a new pair of shoes.
That yacht, you dummy! If you hadn't a double bogeyed 18,
Well, I
If
mean,
you're the
she
wife,
could go, honey, come on, you got to win the $700,000 because I got to be in a designer spacesuit and I got to go with the rest of the girls on an 11-minute trip out of the atmosphere
Oh,
to head up into space and just tell everybody I was there with Katy Perry. Yay! Oh, what bullshit! My God.
yeah,
That annoys the crap out of me when we have news organizations that are paying attention to what is really nothing more than complete and utter marketing PR bullshit.
all right, let me ask
Well,
you this. News guy. And
yes.
you both have
We're
been
both news guys, yeah.
We're both news guys, right? How much has the PR and marketing angle and the clicks angle changed how news is covered?
Oh, it's tenfold, and it's sad in a way because you're right. If Jeff Bezos, who owns Blue Origin, and once employed me at the Washington Post before I left for ESPN, and who, in a way, I'm not saying I would say no to his money now if they called me back at the Washington Post to do something, but I definitely no, I don't even think I would work for him because he's just lost all his ethical marbles for me and what he's done to the Post in the last year or so. But the bottom line is Jeff Bezos is out there putting his fist in the air with his jacked body. Who's obviously he's got a lot of time to work out. He's got a plastic wife who ended up on the spaceship with Katy Perry, who actually
and
did
Gail
want her to
King,
think,
for crying out loud, talk about a waste of human flesh.
yeah,
I mean,
I
just
saw,
a disaster.
I saw Oprah Winfrey crying, and I heard about when Oprah Winfrey cried when Obama was elected, I cried that night. I thought it was a great moment for American history. It was like, it's funny that we even said the word post-racial America because if it lasted about a night, how things have changed. But it was to me, it was a historical night. And whether you voted for him or not, I mean, it was just, like the fact that this country could elect a black man to be the leader of the free world was incredible. She's crying over Gail King going on a 10-minute space flight on Jeff Bezos'
little rocket there that everybody has said it. I'm not saying anything new. This isn't something out of the ordinary. A rocket that looks exactly like a penis. It looks exactly like a penis. There is no, you can't, if you look at that rocket and you see anything else, somebody else will say, oh, you must have penis on the mind. No, it is. That rocket, so you've got 5 women inside of a male penis. We're in big trouble already. If this is where the show is going in the first 10 minutes, hell, we're in trouble. We're getting canceled by somebody.
But if we want to back up just a sec, and you are saying something important. Like, I don't have any problem with that flight if you put somebody that's been a NASA researcher for 20 years, a scientist.
Well, okay, wait a minute. To be fair, out of the 5 women who were on the flight, 2 of them were technically scientists or there for scientific reasons. I got corrected by a friend of mine who used to work for the AP, who said that one of them actually did an experiment. He's wrong. The experiment was tucked underneath one of the seats and was an automatic experiment that was started by some kids in a school. So it was really just there along for the ride. Nobody conducted any experiment. You can't do anything. You've only got an 11-minute shot to do it, and no decent scientist can do anything in that amount of time.
This is what,
11 minutes.
But here's the thing. It's like going on Disney's new roller coaster that happened to be in space. It'd be the same kind of publicity we give somebody. Yeah, we have rocket fuel. It's cool to watch a rocket take off. The fact that jet propulsion is of that magnitude is even, it's even used in society is cool to watch. But the fact that they did, Katy Perry singing "It's a Wonderful World," stop already. Stop. I don't need a Kardashian was on the flight. That's all you had to know.
Well, here's what it is. Yes. And this is why it's a marketing ploy is all it is, because Bezos gets the marketing push from the news. He puts Gail King on it. She's part of CBS News. That makes sure that CBS is going to cover it, and she's going to do more on it on the morning show, so he gets even more bang for his buck. Katy Perry says she's going to write a song about it. which means when that song is out and when it's out for whatever, how long a length of time, it'll always remind people of this ride. And he's got his bestie, his fiance sitting there, and she's always going to talk about it. Look, there was more Botox in that capsule than there has been in the White House in the last 3 years. And that's saying something.
You thought about that line. That was good.
I actually did not. Good. It was.
No. But no, you could use a turkey baster to apply some of the mascara.
And you know what? We're going to get hammered for this, and I'll get hammered for people saying, well, wait a minute, it was a brilliant moment for feminism and women. No, it wasn't. It was just a marketing ploy is all it is. If you want to have a great moment for women and the first all-female crew, hey, I'm hip, I'm into it. But put a couple of scientists in there, put an astronaut in there, put somebody in there who actually is worth it instead of somebody who paid $37 million to be on the flight. That's really all it was. It was a matter of Bezos making more money.
Of course it is. It's all these people are about. And that's why, when I asked the question, the world has changed so much.
We got to get back to the question, yeah.
Everything has changed so much that news isn't even news anymore. At least I haven't watched local news in a long time because I saw the direction it was heading. It seems like the only time they'll do news is if they saw a click somewhere or they saw a headline that grabs your attention.
Well,
because doing a news story,
you're getting into a longer conversation here. This would take a week and a half to talk about. Yeah.
By the way, I want to apologize to any of our YouTube viewers. I've been going in and out on this podcast because
Mike's an in and outer. In case you didn't know it,
I'm in Panama, and there's no electricity down here. Trump has cut it off because we're trying to take back the canal. No, I'm kidding. That's not
Mike is
true,
actually broadcasting today from the canal.
Why don't you broadcast from the canal? Can you broadcast from the canal?
The American Canal? No, I didn't do it. I'm going to wait a week until we. Oh my God! By the way, I was on the canal this weekend. Apropos of nothing, I went on this boat trip where we went to this. It's like I call some fishing guide up I got on Instagram. Right? Guy's like, I'm Gerardo. I'm going to take you all. I'm thinking, oh boy, I'm going to get gringoed here. They're gonna take me up the yazoo for nothing. This guy, I'm not talking guys. This guy for $300, 5-hour tour, kids, family on this boat that first went to this place called Monkey Island. These dang things were coming up to us and eating bananas out of our hands while we stood on the boat. Unbelievable experience. My daughter's 7 years old. She's almost going nuts. Then he takes us fishing. And we catch these monster peacock bass like you would never believe in your life. And we just, catch and release. My 14-year-old is holding up this monster bass. He can't believe he's caught. I was the greatest trip of my, and I'm thinking, at some point at the end of it, I'm thinking, if we actually bring troops down here, and I'm going to fight for the Panamanians because I want this boat trip again.
So actually, this fishing trip was better than the last one you took with Skipper and Gilligan on the SS Minnow, right? Which was only a 3-hour tour.
Correct.
Yeah, and the ginger experience was incredible.
They usually are.
I want to get back to Kevin's point because he made it earlier, but just to finish that, and then we got to actually do some sports here for occasion. But when you talked about local news or news itself biting on what's hot, there are newsrooms around this country, especially in the local realm of things, who sit there and look at Twitter and TikTok and Facebook and some of the local platforms, and if it's getting big clicks, they're out there covering it. Or if there's yellow tape somewhere that they can go stand in front of, and somebody's reading a script off their smartphone to basically seem like we know what's going on. I can't tell you how many times Lady Shannon sits there and she just looks at me sometimes and she breaks out in laughter when I'm watching local news. And the local news is out there just doing absolute nonsense. And the reporters are terrible. The live shots are terrible. The facts are terrible. The writing is terrible. And I'm sitting there going, oh, look at that graphic. Oh, my God. And she goes, will you shut up? You do this every night. And it's true. I kill myself. I eat my heart out every night when I see local news. at how bad it is. It sucks.
Well, let me say that, having worked for WUSA 9 in DC for about a year and a half, 5 years ago now, and really dreaded going to local news in some ways because of, I worked at ESPN, the Washington Post, New York Times. It was a come down. One, some of my colleagues were incredible. I mean, really like smart people. I don't know. You probably have never heard of Leslie Foster.
I've heard of Leslie. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and people of that magnitude, Bruce Johnson, who's now dead. We did a show called The Q&A with this woman, Ariane Dadel, from Philadelphia. It was really like, it was the management that was like the middle management
Always
people, and what they thought was news, what they thought was. I mean, I did a homeless thing where I spent some real time with the homeless in D.C. and at some point they're running the homeless out. The city is like basically taking a dump truck and trashing their domiciles. And the executive news producer, God bless her, I'll call her Cindy, not her real name. Her real name is Kathy Reynolds. She's an idiot.
Oh, thanks. Let's make sure that nobody hears it. Yeah, that's okay.
And she was run out of. She says she went to Palm Beach to be a quiet. Like, no, she couldn't hack it in the big market. Is what happened. But at any rate, this woman was like, "Why aren't we getting the other side in here?" I'm like, "What other side? The city just bulldozed the homeless out of there. Like, what comments do you want from the city officials? The bulldozers didn't move fast enough. It was just stupid." But the bottom line is, I think you watch this.
We were very lucky when the homeless painted a large target on their backs and made it real easy for our bulldozers to get in there. Real good.
Exactly. Like, I think you watch this thing like I watch The Bachelor and The Bachelorette because I just want to see really hot young people that are stupid and more dysfunctional than I am. That's what
all you have to do is go to a White House cabinet meeting. You're all set.
You want to feel great about your news career, which you should, even if these people weren't exist. But you look at them and go, my God, plate full of gratitude. I didn't work in this era.
Well, you talked about Washington, D.C., and the local news is better from the local affiliates there, like WRC, which is still one of the better stations in America, always has been. You got great coverage in New York City, great in Boston, good in Chicago. L.A. has got some amazing news from the local side. You look at these larger markets. But when you look at some of the secondary markets, they just don't give a shit. I mean, the management there just is basically putting who they think is pretty people up there that they can hire, tell them, go ahead, say something, fill the noise, fill the space, and it's just not news. I wrote an article about this about a year ago maybe, and I put it up on my blog, and it was basically about a local television station in the market I live in. I got a call from a friend of mine who works who works at the station. And I pick up the phone. I did not know who it was. I took a chance. I said hello, and the words out of his mouth, exactly. Boy, did you piss some people off. You are fucked. And I mean, I said, I'm not looking to go to work for you. I'm never looking to go to work for the station. I would never go to work for that management. I would never want to be a part of that. So when he said I pissed a lot of people off, I actually felt pretty good.
It means you did your job.
I did my job.
What isn't the job of a columnist, and this kind of ties into news, but even in sports, if you don't get a response, or let me phrase this, is it wrong to say this? If you don't get a response that says, "Man, you pissed some people off," is that a columnist job, or is it the job to make you think?
Go for it.
I always thought a good columnist makes you think.
So. It's a great point, look, I've been disappointed, depressed, almost disgusted by some people in my profession that want. That was
a long slide. All of a sudden, you started kind of high and really went off the board very quickly. Nice job.
The avalanche ain't good on that one.
Yeah, what do they say in Anchorman? That escalated quickly.
That escalated quickly.
Brick, that escalated quickly. You threw a trident in the guy's heart. But I guess that I would say that it bums me out that people just take the other side for argumentative sake. I always thought you had to have conviction about something to write about it. But I do believe that if you don't make somebody cry, laugh, think, or have feelings about it, whether they're angry or they're touched by what you wrote, then you're not doing your job.
Well, isn't
and if
that
you're right,
really what we're doing here? And that's what we do, and that's what every show does in television and radio. You're looking to get under somebody's skin. You're looking to it's the poke. Just give them a
that's the
poke
easy
and get
way
them to
out.
have some
But
sort of
that's
a
the-
reaction.
Getting
I'm not just-
under someone's skin is the easy way out, because that's all it is.
It's not
You're throwing
necessarily
shit
the
against
easy
people.
way out. You're looking for
But
a
I think if
reaction,
you-
Kevin.
Yeah, I know that, but I guess what I'm saying is, you don't just write something or say something for clicks. If you do, you are pandering to the lowest common denominator.
Right.
I
That's
just
the
think
line.
you have to have. I think you have to have conviction about what you're saying. If you told me right now, said, Mike, I want you to take the opposite side of why a guy in El Salvador that's not a gang member, but he should be there, I'd be like, you're out of your freaking mind. If they haven't,
Right.
the guy's got an autistic child back at home. Bring him back. I'll go get him if you give me the money. I'll get a couple
you're right about that.
But
you
like,
have
if you
to
tell
have
me
some
to take the other side, then I'm a fraud.
right.
If
You
I'm a
have to
fraud,
have
then I
some
don't
sort of a
believe what I'm
conviction.
saying. I'm a fraud.
You got to believe in it. I mean, that's what. And in answer to Kevin's
Right.
question, if you get under somebody's skin and you create an argument and you believe in it and you're really behind it, okay,
Yeah.
let the argument flow naturally. But it's people like Stephen A. Smith, who just throws things out there for nothing more than clicks and money and his contract. And Pat McAfee does it. There's so many others who are out there.
Wait,
I go back to what I call
I know.
contrived controversy. That's all they want. They have no conviction behind what they say. They're just out there to piss somebody off and get clicks and get people to scream and holler at them and write back to them on X or whatever. It's all about just the clicks. And to that point, Fox, ESPN, CBS, whatever it is, they want them to have that controversy
Yes.
and want those clicks. That turns into money.
Go ahead, Kevin. You jump in here.
Well, so the fun, ironically, I hear this from, first off, Stephen A's made every show, which is great. And, I actually liked him. He was good to me. Stephen A this morning on First Take says Matt Ishbia, who has owned the Phoenix Suns for 2 years, is on the verge of becoming the worst owner in the history of the NBA. And I stopped and I looked at my television and I went, what? I mean, this is a league that had Donald Sterling.
Excuse me,
Okay.
have you checked out the Dolans in New York City lately?
And you have to, right. And so I stopped and he got me to turn my attention and I'm like, okay, tell me why. Because of the moves he's made. But I'm thinking 2 years at $6 billion or whatever the Suns were sold for, $5 billion. And he's trying to make an imprint in the league. And you're going to call him the worst owner in the history of the NBA. So there isn't there a step from going from being outlandish to then making someone think.
But
Like,
that's the
an
point.
outlandish
If
statement.
Stephen A. or
We're
anybody
burying
else
the
come out,
lead.
if Stephen A. or anybody else comes out and says such and such, Mike Wise, he's just not a good owner. He really doesn't make all the right moves.
Right.
People are going to sit back and go, he might be right. You come out and go, Mike Wise is a screaming asshole. He's a jerk. He's screwing up the franchise. He's making the fans unhappy. He's stealing money. Bang! You got people who are just exploding and want to be part of
I
that
know.
argument. The way it is.
What's the lead, Mike? We
That's
buried
the
the
point.
lead. Like,
It's not
Yeah.
it's not even burying the lead. It's basically just getting a lead out there and making it something that people will react to. I mean, look, all of us could have done it here sometime. Mike could have written a column that he didn't believe in and could have just said something on the air anytime to piss somebody off. But he doesn't do it because he has conviction behind it, which is what the rest of us do. People like, and this is, I know you like Stephen A., but Stephen A., McAfee, and the rest of them, just bullshit artists from start to finish.
Well, the only thing I'll say about that is I don't think it's fair.
It's not fair, but I think that's, Kev, I think that's part of it here.
Stephen A. is not going to put some woman in college on blast. He's not going to do that. That's
Okay,
just
there you
not
go.
who he
Right.
is.
Okay.
The other thing I'll say is Yeah, that's outlandish. The idea that the Phoenix Suns owner is the worst owner in sports. That's just stupid. I'm
In
sorry.
2
That's
years.
But
stupid.
he says it
And I
because
don't know
he
how much you guys
knows
hear of that because my screen's frozen, but that's what
No,
I'm
we
going to say.
he
We got it
knows it
all.
will argue. He knows it will anger somebody. He knows it'll get under somebody's skin. He knows that it will be a reaction. And Kev, you've seen that a million times too, working for
I have.
the worldwide leader,
Yep.
where it used to be at ESPN, they would actually have. I mean, again, I go back to Bob Lee's show where he was out there, and Outside the Lines was just a brilliant show, and still is. You can go back and watch Outside the Lines today, and you can still have a great time watching it.
Yep.
But in all of that, they want the clicks because it's about money. End of the day.
Yep.
Yes.
It really is. And also, I would love to go back in time to figure out the point, knowing what we know now, the point where news editors and news bosses lost their way. I would love to find. All right, hang on, go ahead.
Mike's worked for the big ones. He can speak to that.
Yep.
Well, I think, I was lucky. I got a job out of one day I'll tell you about it, but I was unemployed. The paper I was working for in Sacramento went out of business. It was the Sacramento Union. It was cool. It was the oldest daily west of the Mississippi. It had a bust of Mark Twain in its lobby because Mark Twain had written there. It was like the paper that the gold miners went to find out where the
Wasn't
gold
that the
was.
Union Tribune?
At one point, I think that's San Diego, but it was.
Oh, yeah, you're right. No, it
It
is.
was the Sacramento Union, and out of because McClatchy had the Sacramento Bee and all these other papers, and it just vicious competition and really bad ownership that had changed hands several times. It went out of business in '94, and out of the blue, like 5 months later, I basically had done some stringer stories and talked my way into the New York Times. It changed my life and my career. What it also did was it put me in a place where I was almost at the end of the era in which newspapers were still king.
Yes.
Like I would say newspapers were still king almost until maybe, I don't know, early 2000s, where everybody still went to the primary information source, even though the internet was growing and people were getting on ESPN.com for their news, their sports news. But it was still, if you wanted to read something that was factual and had the best news, you read the USA Today, you read the New York Times, Washington Post, LA Times, whatever big paper was in your neighborhood, or some of the local papers were awesome too. A lot of them spent money, they had resources, they had advertising. And with the advent of the dead tree industry dying and digital growing, all of a sudden the Huffington Post became a legitimate political news source. I started hiring away very good people.
Yep.
And then everything, and the dumbest thing that the New York Times and the Washington Post and these people did was they didn't have people pay for their content right away. They thought they could give it away for free and the advertising would still come. And it was the worst decision because then you sort of let
You can't back up.
No.
You can't back up. You let the genie out of the bottle, and that really killed what I call the golden era of newspapers. It really killed it because then you started, if you didn't have to pay for whoever you like or don't like, Maureen Dowd's content or George Will's content, and you could see that for free, well, why wouldn't you just go to the other guy? And the moment they started charging you, you might downgrade a little bit and go to somebody that wasn't those people.
Well,
and so I think that was that probably the middle of the aughts
was where it really started to take off. I mean, but to that point, when it comes down to a lot of the pay services here and everything, which you spoke about, Mike, I just started writing a column on Substack, where you go to Substack. By the way, it's under Ed Berliner if you look for it. Berliner Speaks.
I've read it.
But I just have started to do that, and you do see a lot of people paying subscription rates on that because it's different, it's interesting, it's introspective, it's good writing, mostly, and a lot of journalists are sitting there too. I mean, look, I didn't really know what it was until I started to read Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on it, and he's a brilliantly thoughtful man the way he writes.
It really is, yeah.
But that's the whole model now, because you got to pay for decent content, or you can just go read the New York Post for free every day.
Can I tell you guys something? Can I tell you guys something funny? So I'm in college from '95 to 2000. We'll take away the year that I was kicked out. But when I was in college, one of my journalism professors, I think it's 96 or 97, he says, in this class, you are required to have 2 newspaper subscriptions, and they will be and I'm in Hofstra on Long Island. They will be the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. You must have those 2 subscriptions,
Fair.
and you'll be quizzed every day, because I read the paper cover to cover. And he looks at me and says, "And you must read the news section too, Mr. Winter."
At least he had you pegged.
That says everything right there, because
Right.
all of a sudden you were reading the Wall Street Journal is a little more conservative. The New York Times leans left, but nonetheless you were getting
Both.
classically trained journalists deciding what the news was. The top of the fold of A1 was what people thought you should read. Now
Yes.
you spearfish for content. You basically find what you want to read, because you've been algorithmed to death, and put down a tunnel of whatever you like. If I gave $5 to Joe Biden a year ago, I would start getting emails that would eventually send me down rabbit holes that would lead to, oh yeah, I'll be an eco-terrorist this week. What the hell? And it goes for the other side too.
Well,
it's all about advocacy journalism now.
Let's take this another step, and let's put it into sports here for a moment. If you want to get sports news, if something's happening and you want to find out what's happening, someone's going to give it to you straight, factual. You're not going to get any bullshit. Where's the first place you go? And everybody goes to the web, of course. So where's the first place you go? Mike.
Man, that's a tough one. I'm like anybody. I probably go to people I know. So, for instance, I know Barry Svrluga covers the Masters. If I want to read a good column about Rory McIlroy, I'm going to read him. If it's just news, I mean, I probably just Google. Like, I hear that Luka's been traded. I'm going to Google Luka's been traded, and I'm going to go to like 3 different news sources. And if the New York Times has a story up, that's not.
I mean, it's fair to say, because I pretty much do the same thing. Kevin.
I will hit my ESPN app, and I'll go to the news section, and I'll check.
So you will go to ESPN first.
I will go to ESPN, but I'll check the headlines, knowing, and then I want to find out who wrote the story. Is it Shams? Like, for instance, Luka. Did Sham write that, or did when Woj was there? Did Woj write the story? Is it with Bontemps? Is it with Brian Windhorst? Is it with Ramona? Or is this an opinion piece? And I know the difference, because I know the reporters. I'm friendly with all of them. I'll check that. I'll click the 3 little lines at the bottom, check the news in each sport, or check the headlines, and I can discern which is which. But I will go to ESPN, because I'll know who wrote the story. So, Mike, like you, I go for people I know.
But I think
maybe that's the advantage we have in this business.
Mike's got it, though, I think, because if something's happening, you'll usually see it on social media. You'll get it either on Instagram, X, Facebook, TikTok, something. When I'm sitting here and I'm working, I have alerts that come over from like maybe 24 different legitimate news sources, and it'll come over. And instead of going there, he's right. I'll go on the web. I'll take the name, whatever it is, or the event, and I'll look.
Yes.
And then I'll go to the news section on Google search, and I'll find out, okay, here's this. And I'll go for instance, I will immediately avoid Fox if it comes up. Yep. Immediately avoid Newsmax if it comes up. I will immediately avoid a lot of the secondary sports platforms, because I know basically I'm going to get opinionated nonsense. And I will probably, honestly, I'll tell you, I've been going to Yahoo Sports lately. I just because it's not ESPN. And
it's an oldie but goodie.
It's an oldie but goodie, and then I'll go from there and maybe I will go to The Athletic, and I'll look and see if they have anything, but usually they have a lot of in-depth pieces. They don't have a lot of breaking stuff, and I'll start to pick and choose, but it's tough to find anybody, because 9 times out of 10, If you go to ESPN, especially if you go to a place like Fox, it's mostly opinion.
All right, so one thing here, because I think you hit something good, and I wish people would do it more often, but we don't. No one takes the time to do it. We used to have to verify our sources. If you see it on X, or you see it on TikTok, or you see it on Facebook, and it makes you go tilt your head like a dog, right? Trying to guess which hand the treat's in. If it makes you do that, please, for the love of God, open a browser, hit Google, and enter it, and find out if that one headline you see on that social media is the only headline there. Because if it is, 10 times out of 10, it's fucking bullshit.
Well, it's not that hard because there was and you bring up a point about social media. There was a post this week about Paige Bruckers that came out and said she has decided to donate her NIL paycheck of $4.5 million to X charity. And it was on a site that got reproduced on Facebook. And all of a sudden, there's people coming out of the woodwork. Wow, we love her. What a great person she is. What an amazing thing she has done. She's the classy person. It went on and on and on. And all I did was I took Paige Bruckers, NIL, and I went and searched it, and I looked under news. Yep. There was nothing there. It was all all a social media post, but people don't do that. They fall for it because it's easy and it's right there, and they don't have to look or spend the time.
Yep. Well, a friend of mine, Liz Clark, who worked for the Washington Post for years.
Really great journalist.
Covered a bunch of Olympics with her. She covered NASCAR. She covered Wimbledon. She was really good. Tennis and NASCAR. She was just, anything she wrote about was great. But at any rate, she apologized for spreading the same post that was linked to Don Staley, that Don Staley gave away her $5.4 million.
Same thing.
And I was thinking to myself, Don Staley didn't sign a $5.4 million. I think she got $800,000, but it was good money. It was the best money that anybody in college women's coaching had gotten, except for Chino Auriemma. And I was like, wow, this is great. And yet you did a quick Snopes fact check. Snopes is always good for actually saying whether something's true or not. And I sent it to Liz privately, and I said, Liz, I just saw this. I just want to let you know. And she did this big apology, like saying, and I'm saying, look, we all get taken by this stuff because we want it to be true. But you're right. All you have to do is a quick fact check and realize that half of this stuff is bullshit. And that's the thing, is ferreting out what's right, what's wrong. The thing that gets me now is AI. I mean, oh my God, they had this one the other day where these people were taking these barnacles off this seal, and I was
I've seen different iterations of that all over the web.
And I couldn't figure out which one was true and which one wasn't, which one was AI. And all I know was the thing that bugged me about it was I definitely had feelings about this, and I was like, this is awesome. In a world of utter shitness right now, this was something that's touching. And I'm going, but the fact that I got manipulated with it and it wasn't true even made me angrier. That you could actually do this to me. I mean, it made me angry.
Well, I'll tell you one that actually took off, and I was shocked. There was the same thing. It was 3 pictures put together of Aaron Judge in a hospital, in a kid's hospital, sitting next to a kid who's under the blankets, and it said Aaron Judge. Kid wanted an autograph. Aaron Judge flew to the hospital and was right there next to the kid. And the pictures are there, and he's got the Yankee cap on. He's got Yankees on his sleeve. Of course, the uniform wasn't exactly right. And not only that, but I've become real good at it, and I picked out immediately that it was AI. But the list of people who just immediately came out and said, what a great Yankee he is. That's what it means to be a Yankee. That's Aaron Judge. That's the great thing that he does for kids. It's not true. And it literally took less than 30 seconds for me to verify that. And it only came up on Facebook and X and a couple of these other secondary outfits. People fall for this crap all the time.
No, the best thing was a tweet right next, the message right next to it that said from Boston Sox 12, Judge sucks.
Good accent.
You knew that was coming.
Well done. Good accent on that one. Well done.
Hey, look, while we haven't even really knocked down the Masters here a little bit, but while we're sitting here and we just happen to talk about it, while I mentioned her name, Paige Bueckers is getting a tremendous amount of attention, of course, number one pick in the WNBA. I made a comment recently to someone on social media, and when I hit send, it was just, do you have one of those moments where you know it's going to go all wrong? Where I just came out and said, okay, good for her. She's a hell of an athlete, but I really don't care about the WNBA. I don't watch it. I haven't seen 30 seconds of a game. It's really, man, I got to tell you something. It came out of the woodwork. I was hit as a sexist in no time. Because how dare you say that about the WNBA? Don't you like women? Do you have something against women that you can't stand them playing athletic sports or you can't stand them playing basketball? No. I came back and said, I'm not a basketball fan to begin with. I'm not a big NBA fan. And the WNBA, I give the ladies all the credit in the world. They're outstanding athletes, incredible athletes. But I don't care. You could hand me tickets to the WNBA championship. I'd sell them for charity and make sure that somebody made the money because I just don't care. But man, I hammered for not caring about a women's sport. All wrong. All wrong.
Go ahead, Kev. Kill him.
Well, thanks, buddy.
Really? Okay. I'm ready. Come on. Bring it on.
And it's not an attack. It's more of, because you don't care about the NBA. See, I'll have your back on this one because you don't like basketball.
Well, okay, no, wait, stop right there. It's not that I don't like basketball because I really appreciate every sport. Honestly, I do.
Sure.
But I'm just not, I could watch basketball, whether it's pro or college, and let it go by.
Invested?
Okay,
You're
sorry.
not invested. You're not invested.
Yeah, that's a good word. I'm not invested in the NBA at all.
Okay, so because of that angle, I'll have your back. But in today's day and age, I have a friend who's older than you. He's one of my mentors.
Wow, he's near death. Okay.
I know, right? Exactly. He's close. He'll say to me, why the fuck is so-and-so, name a woman, on ESPN? She sucks. She can't say this word. She can't speak English. And I'll say, I'm glad you don't have a radio show anymore because you'd be fired in an hour. Because this shit, I'm glad you say to me, right? But you understand where I'm going, right?
Well, but wait a minute. You're talking about apples and oranges here because you're talking about talent on a sports network.
All right.
Where somebody's going after it.
But he's right.
At the same time, we're talking about incredible athletes.
He has no filter like you. Like in that case, you never filter.
Oh, believe me, brother, I got a filter. I've learned to use it over the years, man.
Well, it's funny, though. Would you be canceled, though? Because like we're in this weird manosphere world. I feel like the Tate brothers would sign you up for their own next podcast, and so I think that it's weird. Like Rogan can't get canceled, and he dropped the N-bomb 20 times in a video, and it just imagine who can make the most money. McAfee's not getting canceled.
No,
and
he's not.
Look, I'm gonna stop you here and all this because somebody can come in here and say that, oh, Ed, you just don't like women.
By the way, this fucking internet here is driving me nuts in Panama. I am going to talk to Rubio or somebody about this.
Yeah, talk to Rubio about it. Get back to me in about 3 years.
But what I was saying was that these guys, we're just in a different world. But to your point, I don't know. Yeah, it does come across as I don't like the WNBA. I could see how people could go to, this guy doesn't give a shit about women's sports.
See, but that's my
probably
point.
Not true.
I'm
that's
going after that
you
because
you probably love watching women's tennis. You probably love watching women's track and field. But I'm saying this. What I'm saying is, as a basketball guy, as a guy who sort of made his bones covering the NBA at the New York Times, as a person who played college basketball at, albeit a very small level, Hawaii Pacific, where when we were down 20, the coach would be like, "Wise, you can't hurt us. Go in." I was never a special play. I was all honorable mention all state in Hawaii. That's like being the leading miler in Guam. It doesn't matter, right? but the thing is I've enjoyed hoops, and I don't like if you have any interest in the basketball world and you like basketball at all, I don't see how you can't not like some of the WNBA because
I agree.
It's one of the few sports where it's one of the few levels of basketball where the women still need each other to play well. there's a lot of guys. You get a two-man team in the NBA, you don't need. You could get anybody and their mom to be a role player if you've got 2 or 3 great players. In the WNBA, you still need players to have a great team. Caitlin Clark is fun to watch. Like,
yes,
hell,
I'll agree.
Some of the women in the WNBA are fun to watch. This woman Malongo, who's just drafted number 2 by Seattle, she's a phenom. She's 19 years old. You're going to see her next year. She is great to watch. But so that's why I don't watch every game, but I'll watch. If there's a good WNBA game on, I'll be like, this is drama. These women are after it. They're getting into it. So to me, it's like this. It's great basketball, which happens to feature women.
If I'm watching it, yes.
It doesn't become like I'm not into the WNBA because it's women. No, I'm into good basketball, and it happens to be about women on this day.
So if it's, I will not go search it out, okay? But if I stumble across it on the channel search, I'll do it on the guide. I may click over. In fact, there was one Connecticut Sun game last year. I know, Mike. I know, Ed. I know. There was one.
It's okay. I get it.
I'm not judging. I'm not judging you.
But that's my point. Just because I don't like the WNBA, don't judge me immediately and say that you can't stand women. You've got a problem with women. That's not the case. I again say it out loud. They're brilliant athletes. I'm just not invested in basketball.
But that's isn't that a bigger issue in today's day and age? We are quick, not only quick to cancel, we're quick to judge. Just because you don't like A, they're automatically assuming you don't like B through Z.
Exactly.
That you hate everything associated with the main category. That's what we do in today's day.
Look, there's like the Professional Women's Hockey League. I'm a huge hockey fan. Over the years, I've evolved to become a bigger hockey fan. And if I see the PWHL there and it's broadcast, which it is not in a lot of places, and I don't have a franchise close to me, but when I see it, I'll watch it because I really enjoy hockey and I enjoy the level of competition on it. But it's that immediate knee-jerk reaction that if you don't like women, you're sexist. That's bullshit. Right. And we get hit with it all the time. So that's...
Well, what else sports don't you like, Ed? What else do you like? What else don't you like that you just can't watch that involve men to prove your point? Because I think we should bring Shannon on and ask him if you have a problem with men. And there are anger issues. And that maybe this is a deeper maybe this should be the fastest show in sports. Maybe this should be an intervention where Kevin and I tell you that we love you and we hope that you get help.
We love you, Ed. We love you.
Ed,
okay, now, and by the way, if you're looking to sponsor this intervention, Polar, your favorite seltzer water that Ed Berliner drinks all the time. Hey, to the people at Polar, we're looking for that sponsorship so you can sponsor the intervention tomorrow.
Hey, can I be mine?
Yeah. In answer to your question, Mike.
Oh my God, he's breaking out the silver bullet.
Oh God, that's the worst beer in the world. I mean, my God.
Silver bullet, baby. That was
there simply can't be a worse beer in the world.
That was my college go-to. Right.
Look, I remember when I was a kid, you used to have to go. The only place you could get Coors was if you crossed the Mississippi River, and if you went west to get it, it wasn't delivered east of the Mississippi. You couldn't get Coors in the east. Yeah. So there was like this great, we're going to go get some Coors. Yeah, we had Coors at a while. It's beer. Okay. But in answer to your question, is there any sport I'll stay away from? I won't stop and watch golf just because it comes on the air. Now, the Masters is different. If it's the U.S. Open, I'll stop. Yeah. But one of the regular golf matches every week no, I won't stop. I'm going right past that. I'm not even thinking twice about it.
Yeah.
Basketball is another one. I covered it for a lot of years, but I'm just not, Kevin hit the right word. I'm just not invested in it whatsoever. I can't, there's nothing else off the top of my head that I can think of. I'm not a WNBA fan. Okay. Maybe someday I will. Maybe someday I'll get into it. And look, there's a different level of WNBA player that's there today. Like if you want to bring up Beckers and Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and all the others, these are brilliant players. Now I'll put my foot in it one more time where I'll say that they don't deserve to be paid the same as NBA players. Let's
Wow.
stop.
I
Let's
don't think
stop that
I mean,
nonsense right now. And that's
yeah,
nothing against
that's
women.
like, yeah, no, I mean but that's all predicated on economics, not their gender. I mean, it's basically, if you don't, if you're not filling up stadiums as much, and you're still subsidized by NBA teams.
Well, but I mean, stop right there for a sec, because if you look around at a lot of the arenas that the WNBA is playing in right now, the arenas are sold out in a lot of places. I mean,
Yes.
there's great attendance for the WNBA, so you can't say that. The ratings seem to be picking up right now. They're good in some markets, depending on who it is. But I'll go with you on this one, Mike. It just hasn't proven the staying power. And the point you brought up is great. As long as the WNBA is being subsidized by the NBA, they're unable to stand on their own. Will they be able to? I hope they will. I wish.
Well,
them all the best
they
in the
just
world.
got a network TV contract.
Sure.
And they're having a moment because of Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, and weirdly enough, Caitlin Clark, it's another show, but she's like become the world's largest sports racial wishbone, pulled every which way. The supremacists are holding up as like, oh my God, we have a white player that's shooting from downtown, and that's another story. And then she's sort of dispelling that, like, I don't want these psychos to follow me. And then a lot of people are upset because a lot of black women who basically were, on their backs and shoulders made this league didn't get the attention that this little white shooter from Iowa is getting with the pigtails and the apple.
Yeah, but she's brilliant.
So she's Larry Bird.
She's a great
Larry
player.
Bird
That's beside itself.
If
great player,
Caitlin Clark was out there averaging 9 points a game and 2 rebounds a game and just showed up every now and then, and people are still making a big deal out of her, and she's making huge endorsement contracts, then you got something to talk about. But yeah, she's not. I don't consider Caitlin Clark to be a great female basketball talent. I consider her to be a great basketball talent. I don't even think about the female side of it. She's brilliant.
There's a lot of them in the WNBA. I would say this about WNBA and the money thing. If you really want to look at it, it's a nascent league. It was started in 1999. That's only 26 years old. When the NBA was 26 years old, those guys weren't making any money. No. And so I think it still has to catch on in some ways to and it's not going to with all these manosphere idiots who they brag about they hate women's sports. So I don't know. Anybody who's got a daughter, fine, whatever. You can feel how you want. You don't have to like women's sports. I would just say I like frickin' athletics, and some of them happen to be men, and some of them happen to be women. And I like the level of basketball in the WNBA.
That's a good way to put it. I mean, when we're talking about money, money walks into everything when we're talking about it. Something else I thought we should hit on this
not
week.
This show.
Well, that's because what are you doing to help promote it? Look, at least I'm out there and I'm putting up the Polar can every single show, and I'm saying that Polar, the drink of Ed Berliner's choice. And there's Winter going over there. Light. He's looking for Coors Light. What are you looking for? Rogaine?
Oh, that's hurtful, and it's true. And it's wounded me emotionally. And yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm not losing my hair anymore. I'm growing forehead, and I've never met a comb I can part with. But that's another show.
You're just loaded with the mic.
and at the perfect moment on the video side of things, Mike goes bye. Mike, I got to tell you something. If you could have picked your exit, you couldn't have picked it at a better time. You nailed that.
Best mic drop ever.
You really did. You hit that. I wanted to make sure that we talked about, and at least get a couple of minutes before we get out of here, talk about a lot of this with Nico Iamaleava. This whole, first of all, Nico...
Iamaleava.
No, wait. But hold on. I'm calling him Nico Iamaleava because that's exactly what he did. I mean, if you think about it.
All right, I got you.
The whole thing is just farcically hysterical to me. The kid signs a fat NIL contract. He doesn't show up for endorsements. He doesn't show up at any of his appearances. He takes the money and runs, and then he wants a raise. Look, why don't
tell people who he is, who he plays for.
He's the quarterback for the University of Tennessee, and he's a brilliant player. He's a very talented guy. but he signed for a tremendous amount of money. I think it was four.
I think it was 4.5. 4.5.
$4.5 million he's getting paid to play college football through the university and the NIL deal. He wanted a raise. He wanted double his money. And the University of Tennessee, and brilliant for them, said, bye, which is exactly what they've got to say in college athletics for a lot of these guys. The problem with it is what he did is going to start a run. And we're just at the beginning of it right now, where we're going to see a lot more players who want double their money, triple their money. They want guarantees of how much playing time they're going to get. And they also want guarantees that they're going to be part of the full marketing effort of the university. Universities are going to have to make a decision right now. Do we want to pay them this kind of money? And do we want to basically be beholden to them? The issue here is you just got to make these guys employees. Stop with the nonsense.
Great.
Make them employees, and then when something like this happens, you go to the kid and say, you want $8 million? Tell you what, your contract right now is $4.5 million. Here's $2 million. We're going to buy out your contract. As a matter of fact, it's written in your contract that if you really create a problem for us, here's our buyout. Here's your $2 million. Get the hell out of here. If you do that, then everything may change for the better, I think, than having to put up with this nonsensical greed.
Seth Greenberg, who's been terrific with me every time I talk to him. We got to have a better relationship towards the end. By the way, that he's alive. It's more of the end of my tenure at ESPN. He was of the belief that we are very quickly going to become employees. These student athletes are going to become employees. He's with you, Ed. Make them employees as quick as possible, and you cut out all this crap, because it is still a not right system, if that's a proper sentence. It was a Band-Aid on a massive blood spilling out.
But here's the next thing, okay? How many players are on the standard average college football roster?
83?
Yeah, 83, and then 50 something on game day are eligible to play.
Yeah.
You've got 83 players, 50 eligible, basically a taxi squad. Does that mean you're going to make 83 players employees? And does that mean that the 50 that are sitting on basically what amounts to a taxi squad, you're also going to make them employees? You're going to pay them less. But Mike, do you start paying 83, 117, 150 players full-time salaries?
If they're equitable, if the second string punter is making $30,000 a year, I don't care. It's weird. You almost have to become a money manager now as an athletic director in a way that you never were before. I don't like the whole. I would just get away from, and I like employees.
The problem with it is if you start paying people. Mike, I'm going to take your argument there. If you start paying people equitably, then the quarterback makes $4 million, the running back makes $2.5 million, and the punter makes $30,000. You've got an inequity that's going to happen there. And not only that, but with the amount of money that's out there, we all know that college athletics makes stupid amounts of money, but that's only at about 40 schools, maybe.
Yeah, but it's okay. So I don't know what the answer is. I know this, that whatever player empowerment's going on right now, and Nico went a little too far. But whatever player empowerment's going on right now, I don't care. I mean, it's like the coaching portal. Guess what? The coaching portal's open 24/7. These guys have been stealing and leaving programs and playing musical chairs for years.
So have coaches.
And now when the kids do it, it's like we got a problem. Oh my God, before it was like these kids are in grades and aren't they happy with scholarships and room and board? And now they realize, they're special employees of the university. You're basically, when you go to college, you're not playing in the Carrier Dome. You're basically playing in a 50,000 seat cash register that puts new wings on a university, and you should be part of the profit sharing. Okay, so there just seems to be a hypocrisy in, these coaches all like, I'm going to step down because it's just gotten too crazy. It's like, well, you were the asshole who played musical chairs before and got what you wanted and left the program when you wanted, and now the kids are doing it to you, and all of a sudden, and the kids are basically the ones that or the talent. They're not making the money on the number 4 jersey in the student union before, and now they get some of that. Great.
Okay, which is great.
I don't care how much the players make. I don't care if the schools go bankrupt and quit college athletics. Just make it all professional. I just don't want the hypocrisy of the idea that these players now have to confine to these rules that the coaches don't.
Then I'll tell you what. Okay, Kevin, let's go ahead and make college football professional. Let's just start right from there. You and I and Mike, we all know, and I mentioned the number 40 a little while ago. There are maybe 40 schools in America right now who can survive at a professional payment level. The rest of them can't. So then do we take the rest of those schools, just make them the new Division I, Division II, Division III, whatever it is, break it up and say, no, you can't be part of the club simply because you don't make enough money, you don't have enough revenue. What does that say then about intercollegiate athletics? Or are we simply at the point right now where the only way to survive is college football has got to become professional? I say yes, they have to.
That's a fair point. And I've always been a believer when it comes to football, there's about 6 teams every year who can win the national championship. Don't give me this college football is college basketball crap. It's Alabama, Georgia, LSU, depending on who the quarterback is for LSU. And Ohio State is in there as well. And maybe throw in 2 wild cards a year. That's it.
See, it's funny you hit on this, and we're almost out of time. We're going to have to do this next week because one of the things I wrote down here was how many schools can win the national title in college football?
6.
I said maybe 20.
Okay. I'm definitely not
20
going
is,
there.
20 is a little high. I even in college basketball, I look at, every year I look at the rankings and before the tournament, and I look at it and I go, one of these 8 teams is going to win it all. One of these 8, and that's about it. And that's about what I would say in college football too. One of these 8 teams have a chance. And then when I really break it down, I go, maybe 5. There's like this year you had Ohio State. I didn't even think Notre Dame made it to the championship game, so that was incredible. But Ohio State, you had Notre Dame. Who else you have this year? Georgia. Or was Georgia even in it this year?
Well,
no.
but
Alabama didn't make the playoff.
Georgia was in it. They lost their quarterback at the end. You had
what
Alabama.
I'm basing this on, though, is not necessarily the play right now. I'm saying that in my mind, there are 20 schools out there right now who have the financial wherewithal to be able to make enough money, to be able to generate enough money through NIL, through boosters, legally or illegally, and through sponsors and through conferences where they can compete. That's 20 schools. Out of them, the other 300 or whatever it is, they simply can't raise that kind of money to these schools.
But I guess I would say this, Ed. That's always been the problem. Like the only difference now is the players are getting paid and bankrupting some of these schools. The fact that there were only 10 to 20 schools that have the resources to compete at that level anyway, and it's always been that way. I don't. The thing that NIL does in my mind is it shows you like what Ole Miss is Arkansas is crazy with boosters now. Calipari has unbelievable NIL money. And it's like, because, it's a Southeastern Conference school where you got all these yahoos where their college was the only good thing in their life other than their law partnership. And it was, they can't turn the page, and they'll pay what they would sacrifice their mom to actually get a good player for their college football team.
Yes, they would.
This is how this is how it's always been. It's just that the players are making money now. I just don't think things have changed that much. The only thing that's changed in my mind is the death of the Cinderella program in college basketball.
That's fair.
Well, yeah, and we talked about that actually last week where I made the statement and it got hammered by a couple of people who said, you're wrong, there could be. No, in my mind, as far as the NCAA tournament is gone, the Cinderella school is dead. It'll never happen again. You'll never see. Look, we all looked at Gonzaga, which was like amazing when they came out of nowhere, and then they became a program that actually people respected on a regular basis. But outside of that, it's never going to happen again. And I think there's even less chance that a Cinderella team happens in college football anymore. Again, you're down to that.
Way less.
Way
less.
You might be right. It could be
describing...
6, could be 8, could be 20.
Yep.
But nobody's going to win. Look, you're not going to see a UCF or a USF, just because I'm thinking about those two schools off the top of my head.
Yep.
Or you're never going to see them do it. You'll never see, even a Texas A&M may be sitting on the outside looking in. A University of Arizona won't happen. Washington State, doubtful. So
Washington State, not a chance, because right now they don't have a conference.
Well, not only that, but they don't have the revenue. That's the whole thing. You've got to have the sponsors and the money coming in, and they don't have it. So Mike is actually right in one sense where it hasn't changed that much. Maybe the schools have changed a little. Look, when I was a kid starting to cover college athletics and college football, which is all we had in Florida for a long time, it was Nebraska and Oklahoma every single year. You could look at it and you'd be guaranteed that they'd be there. You couldn't get Nebraska or Oklahoma to sniff a national championship for the next 5 to 10 years if you came up with a GoFundMe page for those schools right now.
Agree.
Yeah, can we just back up and save that one clip? Mike is right. I think that's a good. Let's try and keep that on the program. Yeah, let's make that a soundbite. Mike is right. It just sounds good.
We can do that.
It's like the first time that I've been right.
We can do that. We can do that as soon as you start, basically sloughing yourself out here for the potential of advertisers. We can do that.
Well, I got a commercial. Did I tell you guys this? I don't want to, I have a commercial.
I'm afraid to ask. Last thing. Okay, go ahead. I'm afraid to ask.
Well, no, I sponsor. I think we can get a sponsor from the tractor trailer race car guys. You know what I mean? I'm going to try it right now. Hopefully my thing won't go out. This Saturday, Dickie Daddy Sullivan is Nitro CC cheered out. Show me love. Goes up against Big Dad Dining Garlets and the Snake. We'll turn the Hager's Ground Fairgrounds into a mud pit. Brought to you by the fastest show in sports, featuring Ed Berliner and Kevin Winter.
Actually, Mike, you came very close to Englishtown, New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Which was, when I was growing up, that was the racetrack, it was the drag track, and it was a mouse voice, which I'm not going to do because someone will record this, and then I'll have to pay for it down the road somewhere in social media. But it was Raceway Park. Raceway Park is the whole thing,
Oh, Mickey Mouse voice?
That's what it was. So before we get out of here, any big bets you want to go ahead and push this week?
I'm not gonna put any money because the worst thing I could do is get into this whole sports betting thing again. I cost myself about 13 years ago way too much money, and I will never do it again. Even thinking I have inside information as a sports journalist. But I would say if I had disposable income, and I didn't have 3 kids that need Skittles next week, I would say the play-in games are a good bet this week. And you know why? Because Eric Spoelstra's a great coach. There's no way he's going to lose the first play-in game. I will put Miami covering, and I will also take the Magic beating the Hawks because Trey who? Trey Johnson? What's his name?
For the Hawks, Trey Young.
I know. I would say Trey Young he's not a disappointment. He's fun to watch. The Hawks don't like playing with him. You can tell. Even when he goes on these benders where he just turns on.
Anybody on your side, Kevin, that has to be any Kevin Winter locks this week?
Miami's catching a 1.5 from Chicago. If you want to back Eric Spoelstra, the Hawks tonight are 5.5-point dogs. So Orlando's laying the 5.5. But if you want to take Mike and just take him on the money line, you're minus 215. I'd actually take the Grizzlies to beat the Warriors tonight.
Why is nobody talking about the Stanley Cup playoffs? Why are you not talking about the betting on the Stanley Cup playoffs? I mean, here we are.
Hang on, you ready? All right, so hold up. You asked that question. Right now, so back in February, I did a 4-team parlay. UConn women to win the national title. Check.
1.
Florida men to win the national title.
2.
Check. Boston Celtics to win the NBA championship. And the Colorado Avalanche The Colorado Avalanche at plus 900 to win the Stanley Cup. That $10 bet will pay out $8,700.
If it hits.
Yeah, but you still need the Celtics and the Avs.
I need the Celtics and the Av. I am halfway
But he's got,
home.
but it's a good chance. I mean, they're both in the playoff race.
The Avs aren't even the best team in the NHL.
And does the best team in the NHL always win?
No,
it doesn't actually. You're right. But no, that's a heck of a parlay bet. But I was saying before, the Magic to cover against the Hawks tonight, and also the Heat to cover.
By the way, 5.5 is what Orlando.
I wonder if we're breaking any federal law here.
No. You can put odds on the air. You just can't say you're betting on those games personally. I don't even know. I don't care anymore. What are you going to do? Take us off the air? Woo!
Federal authorities today decided to go down and find Mike Wise in Panama. They found him hanging out by the canal.
Yeah. I mean, who is going after me at this point? I can say anything. I don't work for a real organization anymore. I work for Ed Berliner. What the hell?
Work for Ed Berliner.
No, you don't work for me, man. Don't
You're
say
right.
that. Somebody's going to come after me for unemployment taxes. Please don't do that now. I can't afford that.
That's a good point.
Yeah, all right.
So
all
anyway,
right, gentlemen. Listen, next week we started that. We got to get onto that teams that could win the national championship. I say 20. Kevin says 6. We got to get onto that. And maybe by next week, another baseball reporter will have gotten the phone number of a girl at a ballpark. That's another story.
Oh boy!
Good Lord.
Thanks, guys. That was fun.
All right. That's it. He's Mike Wise. He's Kevin Winter. I'm Ed Berliner. Don't forget, catch us on YouTube, catch us on podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. And oh yeah, by the way, fastestshowinsports@gmail.com. You can send us a note there. For the whole crew, I'm Ed Berliner. Rock on, true believers. Say it.
That's all, folks.